Hi, welcome to Global Village TV. At Global Village TV, we engage our viewers with some of the day-to-day issues affecting the global village. We stand up against human rights abuse, social injustice, environmental pollution, child abuse, abject poverty, corruption, and many more. We have something for viewers of all ages, children, the youth, adults, young and old. So stay tuned in and don't go anywhere.
1982 was when Doctor arrived in Germany, and he has been living there in Europe for over 40 years. And then he saw the development in Europe, then he looked back in Africa, and then he kept asking, why? Why? You know, after 40 years, the gap is so wide. So I believe this was the journey that began this radical therapy and the antidote 80-20. I think Africa should be interested to know what Doc is talking about. So we are about to launch this book, and this is the time to hear from Doctor himself. Are you happy about that? Yes. You know, I want to know why, because how many of you have been to Europe before? One day you will be there, say amen. Amen. But Doctor has a good news for us. Let's be on our feet at this juncture, and we want to hear from Dr. Robert Pepradinfi with a clap offering. He's coming to tell us why and the whole reason behind this racket. It's time for Africa. Say with me, it's time for Africa to rise up. All right, so at this juncture, we welcome Dr. Robert Pepradinfi with a clap offering.
Hello, thank you very much for being here. Please sit down. I don't know where to start and where to end. Whether to start from Kantanka, the miracle man for Africa, and Africa has rejected him. We keep on praying for miracles. God sent somebody to help Africa, and we are not supporting him the way he should do. I'll come back to that later. I want to acknowledge everyone who has come to support this wonderful book launch. I just want to acknowledge everyone. And I also want to say hello to my family in Europe, in Germany, in the UK, my wife Rita, and our children Karen, Jonathan, and David. One thing I want to say, it's not easy to be married to an author, a passionate writer. Because as the chairman says, sometimes you are asleep and the ideas come to your mind, they wake up, you have to put on the light, otherwise you forget. You get the inspiration and you write. As I said, otherwise going very, very long. So I want to try to be as brief as possible. But I want to, I selected today, 21st September, not by accident. Today is the birthday of Osadifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the great Pan-Africanist of all time. So I was doing my maths. He would have been 114 years today. So, because without him, I would have gone to school. My mother could have been a human rights activist or a lawyer, but she lived in Gold Coast. And she didn't get the opportunity to go to school. My father could have been a physician or a mathematician. He also didn't get the opportunity to go to school. But when we were born, we had a free education, so I got the opportunity to go to school through the working of Osadifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Others have spoken about me. I just want to be brief as far as myself is concerned. I was born in a little village called Impintimpi. If you know the geography of Ghana well, you know Impintimpi. If you don't know where Impintimpi is, it means you don't know the geography of Ghana very, very well. It's a little village in the Brim North district, near a Brim. There's a road, if you are going to Accra, if you get in Ngoko, the road going on your right is going to Coal Mountains. The one going to the right is going to Achimoda, and you get to Akunyase, then come to Pitipi, a little village. There was no school in our village, so I had to walk to school. At that time, I never had I could never imagine that I will one day end up studying medicine in Germany. I didn't go there with a scholarship. I went there through the hard way. I've written that in some of my books, The Call That Changed My Life. You may one day want to read it. So eventually, as I said, I studied medicine in Germany. But sometimes when I get to the airport, they say, "Doctor, why don't you come home to help?" Actually, when I was selecting my subjects, I didn't know what to choose because I was a passionate writer. I was writing at the age of 12. And I also wanted to be a doctor. So I sat down and said, okay, first become a doctor because you cannot learn medicine on your own. So be a doctor first, and the writing will come on its own because that's a talent. So when I passed out from medical school, I've never worked full-time doctor. That's why I've written over 40 books, and I think 20 books are on the way. Because imagine, when I went to my village, there's a lady who fell from a vehicle, and she fractured her femur, the big tire, the big bone here. She only managed to do the X-ray. I could see the picture of the X-ray, but because she has no money, she's not able to go to hospital for the surgery. And you know, over there in Europe, even a dog or a horse can have that surgery. And if you're a passionate writer, can you sit down about that? You write. So I'm writing and writing and writing. So I'm dedicating today's speech to the millions upon millions of underprivileged of the African continent, the disabled, the unemployed, the homeless, and the downtrodden millions of the African continent. The disabled. When I was driving, somebody was driving me through the street recently, and I saw a gentleman with above knee amputation. That means the leg had been amputated up to this level, and he didn't even have two crutches. He had only one crutch. So he was doing it, and he was begging for money in the street. Another pathetic scene. A few minutes later, another disabled young individual, I didn't see whether it was a boy or girl, but he was in a wheelbarrow, and they were wheeling the disabled along the streets of Accra begging for money. Was it accidental or was it coincidental? Just as these disabled people were suffering on the streets of Accra, Lagos, Addis Ababa, elsewhere, world leaders had gathered in New York for the annual General Assembly meeting. And Africa was very well represented. 54 different presidents from different African countries, all traveling in their executive jets. Some of them chartering the jets in millions of dollars. They go there to blah, 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 talk at the expense of the people like you. And after they have made their blah, 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 they go and sleep in luxurious hotels, 5-star hotels in expensive New York. You can sit down and imagine the cost to the taxpayer. So, I am making an appeal to the General Secretary of the United Nations, Mr. Guterres, that's his name. I'm saying that in future, don't invite 54 African leaders. Invite only 4. One from the north, to talk for those in the north, one from the south, one from the east, one from the west. The rest can sit home. Now you have Zoom. Virtual, they can write their report, whatever, because when they go, I don't know what they are going to take. It doesn't help you, people who don't have anything to eat. that could save money, huge sums of money for the ordinary Africans. Recently, I went to speak in a school in Teshi, and a 12-year-old boy got up and said, I was talking about how they can become good citizens, honesty, integrity, accountability, sense of duty. And a 12-year-old boy got up and said, Doctor, I have a question. I said, okay. He said, why is it that when our president or the ministers, when they are not well, they take planes and go outside for treatment? I said, okay, go. That is an excellent question. I'm going to forward it to the president of Ghana, not only the president of Ghana, but also African presidents in general. They should come from their mansions and come and listen to this little voice of Africa. African leaders, they have this insatiable appetite for luxury. Recently, I heard a YouTube video. I saw a YouTube video, and I also quote the reporter. I just read it. Most African countries build some of the most extravagant and establishments to serve as befitting presidential suites and palaces. Africa has been recognized worldwide for hosting some of the most beautiful, unique, magnificent presidential palaces ever. Look at it. On the other hand, we are the most deprived. People suffering, homeless, they don't have social welfare, nothing, and we have the most expensive hotels, palaces, presidential palaces, and they listed them. The most expensive is in Egypt, followed by the one in South Africa, and Ghana's Jubilee House was the third on the list, costing $50 million to build. Then comes Namibia, Cameroon, Madagascar, Mauritania, Sudan, Senegal, and on the 10 most expensive, extravagant, number 10 is Uganda. So, everybody wants to go to Europe. I have been to Europe. I studied medicine with Germans. What I want to say is that they are human beings. They can have diabetes, they can have high blood pressure, they can have kidney stones. They are human beings like ourselves. So the question is, why is it that we are not developing? The answer can be found in my book, Radical Therapy for Africa's Lookalike. That book will be reviewed after my speech, so I don't want to go into details. But the second one, I'm going to review it a bit. I'm going to say a bit about that book. I'm saying that Antidote 80-20. 80% of Africa's problems are homemade. 80%. If somebody was saying 95%, so I was even more diplomatic. Somebody said 95% homemade, 5% outside. So I was even a bit generous. And what are the causes of beggar mentality? We have inferiority complex. Why is it that we are not driving Kantanka vehicles all over? You go to church to pray God to make our country well. Almighty God has given us Kantanka. Why is Africa not driving Kantanka vehicles? Do you think that the Europeans? You think everybody is as talented as? What I want to say that God puts talents all over the place. It's the way you make use of your talent. So we could have given him good credit with very good conditions, help him to produce these vehicles and buy them. Africa could buy. You are importing. You think the cars you made outside, They didn't start one day and make everything. In Germany, they started BW. Somebody started it, he supported it, and then it spread. So if God has given you the talent and you are not using it, then you go up fasting and praying, while God has given you the talent, sometimes I sit down and cry. And mistrust. I mentioned a lot of factors. The book, I want to go back a bit. In that book, it's also a dream. I met two boys, one called Kwesi, and another, a girl, Bola from Nigeria. And they were, it's a dream. I was sitting in a garden in London. And they said, when they go to school, their European friends are mocking them, saying, we are from Africa, go back to Africa. So they were very sad. So they asked me, Uncle, you are from Africa because you grew up here. So why is it that we are not making it? So I invited them for a dinner at a pizza. We went to a pizzeria. We got pizza, and sitting around, we decided to discuss the problems of Africa. So I mentioned that the problem is a matter of mindset, because God has given us the talents. So I called out, or I listed some of the talents God has given us. I mentioned myself, because I also came from a little village, and I went to medical school in Germany. I was the first only African among 300 Europeans. I was able to make it. So what is the difference? It is because it is our mindset, our system. And I've also cited Kantanka. Then there's another boy who I got to know him by chance on the YouTube, on internet. He's called Oura. He's also another, God has given that extraordinary brilliance. I was surprised, but for example, when they gave him mathematical formula, 216 times 216 times 216, he wasn't looking at any calculator. It was not makeup. He said 10,077,696. If the person who was asking the question, he was not able to use a calculator to calculate it. You see the point? Okay, I don't know at the moment what is happening with him, but if that boy was born in a place like Germany, or the government would have taken care of him straight away. They would try to do everything to encourage him to develop for the interest of the whole country. But I don't know what is happening with him. It's a talent God has given us, because it comes sporadically, you know. So the moment you get yours, it's for the whole society to try and help him. No, nothing with politics. You see the point? So Africa can make it, but there are a lot of other issues that inferiority complex and beggar mentality. We are begging all the time. When we can do something on our own, and we think the products we make here are not good, are not fancy, so we prefer to get from somewhere. And the issue of our presidents seeking treatment outside. We have very good doctors. So, okay, the money that they will spend to go to London or New York, they could have used it to import the machines. You see that, to set up the machines here for our doctors to operate. Okay, it can be that maybe in one area, maybe you can even invite maybe somebody from outside, but only maybe 1 week. You can, if there's a surgery that maybe the Africans are not very competent, you can invite somebody from Europe to come and do it and go back. Not that you take your plane. What about the people on the street? You think we are stupid? Why? And most of the time, they go at the cost of the state. You see the point? So, we have to patronize ourselves. And at the end of the book, I make a speech to the youth of Africa. As I said, I made it to teenagers. One from Ghana, one from Nigeria. I don't want to say everything in the book. You can read through it and then you get to know the message. But I want to just, as I'm getting to the end of my speech, just read a little bit from the statement that I made to the youth of Africa. I'm saying that Africa needs big thinkers, visionaries, who would think beyond the borders of their small countries. There are some of these countries which, if they happen to be business entities, would have long been declared bankrupt. So I'm saying that you have to work together. African countries have to work together. Africa needs big dreamers, individuals who live their lives thinking for the common good of all, contemplating the best ways and means to end the pervasive poverty on the continent. I urge the youth of Africa to develop a problem-solving mindset. If you get the problem, as the first speaker was saying, when the time came for COVID, you left everything to the Europeans. You have to make the effort. You have to also show that you are somebody. Even if you don't succeed, you have made the effort. Not that you sit down expecting others to develop something for us. God has given the brains. You have to use them. We must stretch our brains to their utmost creative abilities. Africa needs leaders whose main goal in going to politics is to help improve the lot of its people, who will lift them out of poverty rather than amass wealth for their selfish gain. Individuals hoarding millions in their homes. It is atrocious. And the youth of Africa must be progressive. They should not always sit down in the MPP, NDC. Just go your third way. Mobilize, educate, selflessness, service to God. You go to church, but you are leaving the disabled on the street. What type of church do you go? Jesus said, care for them. You buy expensive vehicles and leaving the disabled on the street. So, Africa needs leaders whose main goal in going to politics is to help improve the lot of its people, who will lift them out of poverty rather than amass wealth for their selfish gains. Africa needs politicians who will not exploit tribal and religious sentiments among the populace for their selfish political gains. Instead, Africa needs leaders who will build bridges among communities rather than sow seeds of discord or stir up strife, which ultimately could lead to unnecessary bloodshed. I implore you, the youth, not to aim at going to politics to lord it over the populace and eventually amass wealth. Instead, you should venture into politics to serve your community, to work to improve the lot of the populace. Africa needs dedicated youth who have the interests of the masses at heart. Those who have no lobby, like the disabled, like that disabled person who was being wheeled in a wheelbarrow. That is a disgrace. It never happens in Europe. There, the vulnerable have the lobby. If the government has only one person left, they will give to care for the disabled or the vulnerable before they think about themselves. I'm saying that we have miscopied the Europeans. We have miscopied them. Even the democracy we are practicing is just buying votes. What is that? But if you want to copy them, you also have to copy the welfare state, the welfare state system. We have to cater for the underprivileged. You don't have to wait for until your uncle. Your uncle is not responsible for you. It's the state. So in Europe, it's the state. Everyone says the state is your father. So if the state is broke, still the money, a little bit has been given to the vulnerable, the people who finish school, senior high school, unemployed. Okay, I'm not saying, but the government has to take care, make sure that they are guided in a way like supporting Kantanka to produce, to expand his factory and employ the youth. You see the point? So, and I'm calling for the book, The Radical. I don't want to go back because it will be reviewed. But there are a lot of ministers, 100 ministers. If you go back to our history, the first president in Nkrumah had 12 ministers. Now 100. What has happened? We have divided the ministry into aviation. Then roads, there's a different minister for roads. They think you are stupid. We have to, not with force, but with intelligence, just challenge them for them to know that they can't take us for a ride. The poor, I come from the poor background. The poor, I speak for the poor. I'm not thinking about their luxury. They create ministers for their own purposes, to put their friends there. So, the youth, forget about us. You are the future. Be honest. Because every day you want to go to Europe. It's the same earth. Sometimes I say that if you give the Ghana to 1 million Europeans, they will develop Ghana and you come back. There's so much soil, so much fertility. When I was fertile land, when I was from Accra to Kumasi, everything green. Everything green. When I went to Israel, they were planting fruits on the desert. Challenging you to wake up. I urge you to resist the temptation to seek shortcuts to success, both in your endeavors and also when it comes to public life. It will be best if you strive to be men and women of integrity. You get the blessing from God. So, finally, I'm putting my trust in you. I believe in you. I believe in you. You are the leaders of tomorrow, okay? Don't copy blindly because somebody is cheating you. Don't cheat. Don't look at our politicians. They only buy their B8, whatever vehicles, instead of even supporting Kantanka's local. I'm not his spokesperson, but me the sense of duty for my country. Because if he prospers, he will pay tax and you create jobs. That is what they do in Europe. Like they have to even put some import restrictions in vehicles coming here just to help his company to grow. That is what they do in Germany and other places. But we sit down, we don't support ourselves, and every day Ghana Edio, Africa Edio. So I'm just ending it here. I hope you have picked something from it. And the books, I'm suggesting that anybody who came here should get a free copy. There are 2 copies, so you get one of them. So that you read and then get the message. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Mukwaji. Oh, we can do better. Doctor is challenging the youth. So we are challenging you all. I think when Chairman is giving his closing remarks and during the book lunch, he will tell us more. Next, we have the review of the book. And without much ado, I'd like to welcome, ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, let's welcome Dr. Cynthia Edukwe.
Thank you very much.